Welcome to the Barker Podcast Collection.
Welcome to the Not Watching Podcast. My name's Rob Howard, and today I'm joined by
Marcus Hurley.
So, yeah, the idea of this particular episode is to talk about some of our favourite films that we've seen so far this year, so that we can refer back to this when we come to do our movies of the year at the end of the year, or just to, you know, sort of see where the land lies right now. Normally when we do like our end of the year lists, we go from like the bottom to the top, but I thought it would be good to just go like from the top to the bottom. Not that I've like got a specific order at the moment.
No,
but
I'm looking at mine and I'm thinking, I don't know if I have an order.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, well, look, we'll do this, but then, because what I was thinking is, if we leave like what's lowered down to last,
Yeah.
that's the stuff that probably won't get mentioned later in the year, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Like it might drop out, although I don't know, looking at the rest of the year, which we'll get to later, there isn't that much in competition, to be honest. And also, I have to say with the caveat that I still haven't got round to a lot of the films that come out around Oscar time. So bear that in mind. Like, I haven't seen the fish one.
The Shape of Water or something.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and I really am looking forward to that, but it's not actually quite out yet, so I'm waiting to see that in all its 4K glory.
I think some people were lucky enough to see it in screen unseen and cinema releases, but we've got to wait until it's here.
Yeah, cool. All right then. So, do you want to go then?
Well, I've got one of two films. It doesn't really matter which way around I do these. They're obviously the ones that I have single-handedly funded the Odeon cinema empire with.
Oh, yeah.
One of them is got to be Avengers Infinity War.
Oh, God, yeah.
Let's go big. Let's just not muck about.
Yeah, it's
this
the best film I've
ridiculous.
seen this year by a country mile. It won't be toppled. If there's a better film this year, I'll be surprised.
This film is ridiculous. It's just not even muck about. It's ridiculous. I mean, having watched it a second time, now that I know the story and everything, I was able to just enjoy it without having to do any of that wasted brain process of trying to understand plot and story and all that nonsense. He's just literally sitting there and going, "Oh my God, look at it."
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I really can't wait to see it again. It's difficult to process it all when you're having your mind ripped apart.
Yes, but once that's over, you realise it really is a bloody good film. The way that, I mean, we've talked about how they've managed to give everyone equal screen time and stuff like that. Well, not equal, but a decent amount of screen time. And I've mentioned the fact that they've managed to keep all of the characters true to themselves. Even Thor, they've managed to tie in some of the crazy Ragnarok Thor with the little jokes, like calling raccoon Sweet Rabbit. But at the same time, managed to rechannel some of old school Thor. So he's he's somewhere nicely in the middle, like dry wit sort of thing. You know, and he's talking about how my brother's dead, my father's dead, my sister came back and tried to kill me, I killed my sister. It's just like, that's tough, eh? Yeah. Oh well. But it's so much of it was so good, and it was just, I'd still think that they did the best film they possibly could with all of that input. And when you go through the actual storylines and the plot points, you realise a lot of them are running in parallel. I mean, the whole film takes place within, I don't think, more than 48 hours. It's 48 hours. It must be. Yeah. Because there's only one night, you only see a nighttime sequence in Edinburgh with Vision and whatever. And that's after the first act with New York and everything. And then that continues on the next day. They go to Wakanda, and then that's the end game. So it is literally probably about 24 hours the entire thing happens in, which is bonkers.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, there's a lot of planet hopping as well, but it's best not to kind of go down that road, or you might go slightly mad.
Yeah, like when they were hopping through all of those jumps in Guardians 2.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I don't know, have you got anything to add? I don't think there is anything really to add. I just think it's magnificent.
Yeah, I know. The thing is, it's like, I often sort of get torn between, like, what I think are, like, you know, proper good films that stand in their own right, and Avengers. The only thing that I think could like pull it down at all is the fact that it is a film that uniquely works on the basis that you have
an interest in all of the story,
that you're invested in it all, and that you know what's going on. I don't know if the film would have the same impact to someone who had not seen any of the previous films.
But then that would be the same with like any third film in a trilogy, really, because I mean that's the whole purpose of it. The fact that it could pull that much money because that many people. I mean, I feel sorry for people that have gone to watch it without knowing half about what's going on, because it probably doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Yeah. But, you know, in that context, all you got to do is, like, kind of go, well, the films have been out for ages.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll move on to my next pick, or my first pick. My first pick was Avengers Infinity War, but I've got just under that, I've got 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, which got lots of Oscar love. I think it got Best Picture, didn't it? Rightly so. It's a great film. Brilliant performances from Woody Harrelson again, and obviously the title, the lead character played by Frances McDormand, who got the Oscar. She's great in it. But yeah, basically the basic plot is that her daughter gets raped and murdered, and she's really a bit bemused she's upset that the killer, no one's been arrested yet. The killer hasn't been found. And so there's these 3 billboards she finds driving in and out of town that aren't being used. So she buys them up and puts messages on them that basically call out the sheriff of the town for not having, found the murderer, or at least arrested it, or made no progress in the investigation. And so Woody Harrelson's the sheriff. He's got I think he's a deputy, or like a cop lower down from him, played by Sam Rockwell, who also got an Oscar for it. And he's totally off the chain, a bit of a lunatic, massive racist. And yeah, there's just some really fruity dialogue in it, and it goes to places that you don't really expect. It's just one of those kind of like brooding sort of just powerhouse kind of bit of writing and directing, really. So Martin McDonagh wrote and directed it, and it just kind of come out of nowhere and stormed the board. And I was very much looking forward to watching that, and it didn't disappoint. So nice. That's definitely going to be up there for me.
I've yet to see that, but I've heard nothing but good things about it, to be honest. Everywhere.
Yeah, it's well worth checking out.
Well, I've got a couple of quieter days coming up, I think, including my birthday, so I might do that.
Yeah, it's out to rent at all the usual places now. Awesome. So, yeah. What you got next then?
I'm looking at my list, and it doesn't seem to really ooze quality. It's more just like self-satisfaction. It's like I'm a 12-year-old just going, my favourite films are.
There's been a lot like that this year.
I know. Though. Well, I got to say, for me then, the next big one for me was, it's got to be Ready Player One.
Yep. I thought this would, considering how many times you've seen it.
I know, I still regret I didn't see it as many times as I wanted to. It could possibly have been the film if I had enough money to go and see it twice in the IMAX.
I still haven't seen the first 20 minutes of it, I'm ashamed to say.
Oh, wow. Well, you didn't miss too much, but we could save that for the 4K rental.
Exactly. Well, I did read the book, so if I hadn't read the book, I would have rescheduled. But I just had to carry on. I hated myself for doing that, but never mind. Ugh. Idiot.
Oh, well.
But yeah, no, I know it's chock full of so many references to things you love, isn't it? So
yeah, but also I kind of love the core story. It's a little bit soppy. It's basically boy meets girl. Outsider boy meets literal outsider girl, and they fall in love and go on an adventure. It's like I liked it because it was a Spielberg-esque story in the middle, amongst all of that literal magic going on in some cases. And the ending was a little bit. The ending's a little bit like the message is, they closed. It's a slight spoiler. They shut the Oasis. Was it Tuesdays and Thursdays or something like that? And you kind of think you have a billion-dollar industry and you close it 2 days, and everyone's probably like, why? Because real life needs to be enjoyed as well, and that's kind of the message. Even though we've watched how awesome virtual reality is compared to shitty real life for like 120 minutes plus or whatever. But then I like the way it ends, because the way it ends like that, it almost reminds me of films like The Princess Bride and stuff, where it's literally, and they all lived happy ever after, the end. And it was like that, and the reveal, Ogdomoro and stuff like that, all those little reveals. So I just loved the way it wrapped up. Even the bad guy, the big corporate douchebag, when he had the gun, he didn't shoot them. I thought he was going to shoot him. I thought, oh god, it's going that way, it's going to get dark. It didn't. He kind of saw the error of his ways, got arrested, and it was just, it all wrapped up nicely in a Spielberg sort of 80s way.
Yeah, I think that's probably still somewhere in my sort of top 5 at the moment. Because
it's
mostly on account of that one scene in the middle where they like go into another movie.
Yeah,
and I just that whole like subversion of that I just found incredible. I don't know if it will stay in the top 5 because that's probably the only moment that really did it for me. But like I said, I need to see the film again in full. And it was a great time at the cinema, and it's probably the first 3D film I've seen in a while that actually I enjoyed in 3D. Apart from Avengers, but that was IMAX. So cool. All right. My next one is Cargo, which is the Martin Freeman zombie movie that debuted on Netflix just a few weeks back. And I really liked it because as much as, the zombie thing's been done to death, first of all, this starts off with basically a married couple. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Really
all right.
good.
So, well, I won't spoil it, but it starts off with a married couple and a young child. And, it's obviously something's happened and they're trying to sort of stay out of trouble. And, I think it dealt with the whole, like, changing and the grief associated with that really well. Like so many times, like, people change and you're like, oh, here we go. Yeah. But with this, you really it was really upsetting the way it was done. Like, the eyes and also I loved like the imagery of like them burying their heads in the sand.
Yeah.
And like the inventiveness of how he's just trying to get his daughter to safety. And they come across quite a few like challenges and stuff along the way. I really enjoyed this. I won't lie. I was actually building IKEA furniture at the same time as watching this. But still, I found myself wrapped up in it utterly. And, I was in tears several times throughout. I really thought that was really great. And I thought Martin Freeman was just absolutely on top form.
He did it so well on that. He was really good in that.
Yeah.
I think pretty much most of the cast were. And it was a nice... It kind of goes into the... folklore of Aboriginal Australia as well, which I thought was a nice touch. So it kind of gives it a little bit extra rather than just your bog standard man trekking across desert land. Not quite Lone Wolf and Cub sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, definitely. So that definitely made an impression on me. So that might be in my top 5 at the end of the year. Cool. What have you got? Any others?
I do. I'm trying to think what else I've really seen this year, and it was just only thing I can think of immediately as well that springs to mind was Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that, so that's obviously riding quite high and also being a recent film. I really enjoyed what it had to offer. I thought the change in direction and some of the early shocks, really early shocks, almost like Avengers Infinity War early shocks.
Yeah.
Kind of, I thought, just allowed it to do something different. But then it kind of created a new dynamic, which I wasn't expecting and stuff like that. So and then it just continued to do what it does well, and introduced a really badass antagonist, protagonist. You know, it's without being too spoilery. We've already gone into that in another podcast, haven't we? But yeah, Cable was awesome. Ryan Reynolds, as always. So yeah, Josh Brolin was awesome as Cable, amazing as Cable. Ryan Reynolds was amazing as always as Deadpool. And the supporting cast, I think, even though they're treated as guest appearances, all do the job. Whereas add more humour and everything else, I think it just flowed quite nicely. A lot of people have said to me they didn't quite enjoy it, and I'm thinking I don't quite see how, because you literally sit down, buckle up, and it just pulls you along, and you just enjoy the film for what it is. If you like Deadpool, this is literally a Deadpool film. If you like the first one, this offers more of the same in a slightly different package.
Yeah. No, I thought it was. I think it was more of the same, and for me, like, that went against it because I really want to be surprised as well as entertained. Generally, that's just what I prefer.
Yeah, maybe.
So
but I put it in the. Yeah, that's true. I was going to say I put it in the John Wick school of sequels that offer more of the same, but that's kind of what you want. But John Wick 2 just raised the level of insanity to, you know, we found a new number. It went from 11 to like 15.
What I feel that film did, and why I think it was a better sequel, is because it built on like the foundation that the first film set.
Expanded the world and stuff. Yeah.
Whereas I feel like Deadpool was kind of like his round two, you know. And I guess they kind of like sort of tried to sort of build up on the whole like the X-Force bit, but then they just turned that into a joke. Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of like that's the problem with the film, isn't it? Like it's a juggling act. So,
but then he kind of has a team now, doesn't he? So I guess
he did. The end result was like an expansion, I suppose, of the the crew he's got around him. So I suppose in that way, maybe the next one will really kind of build on that. And
I mean, Domino's got to make a reappearance because she's just sitting down with it. Cable's got to be in it unless he's off doing something futury, which will probably be a side note.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see what Josh Brolin's schedule's like, I suppose. I'm sure he'll come back.
Yeah, true.
Cool.
Unless he's fitting out for a new gauntlet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, that's a whole other ball game. Yep. I've got kind of a few here. None of them I think are going to make it, but by the end of the year. So I'll just name them quickly. Okay. And I've been juggling these three. It's Game Night, Hostiles, and Annihilation.
Okay.
They're the kind of the three that I might have to revisit before I come up with my final top five. Game Night, because it was like a pretty sort of easy peasy comedy, which is why I think it's probably not going to last. But it was much better than it had any right to be, and was a lot of fun. Hostiles is a Western that I found really entertaining with Christian Bale, where he has to basically escort this dying Indian chieftain who he absolutely has nothing but contempt for. He has to basically escort him back to where he came from, and they get beset upon and end up sort of bonding a bit. There's a bit of an unnecessary subplot with this woman they pick up. Well, it's not unnecessary, but I feel like it makes the film a bit longer than it needs to be.
Yeah.
But that was really good. And Annihilation, which is another film that debuted on Netflix, seems to be the year for that. But that was like a really great film with some really cool imagery, directed by Alex Garland, starring Natalie Portman. But ultimately, I felt like the ending was a bit slight. They're like free of like probably like other films I just want to mention now because I probably won't mention them again.
I've got one more.
Yeah, go on then.
And I think the ending for this didn't leave me feeling a bit slight. The Ritual.
I don't know if that actually came out this year, did it?
I'm sure it did. I watched it on... I don't know, actually. Oh, that's a very good point.
I think that because that would definitely be high up for me if it was. No, it's 2017.
Oh, man. Just missed out. Anyway, I saw it in 2018.
It came out in the States in 2018. So maybe I'll
I
let
watched
you
it
have
on
it.
Google Play when it came up. Google sort of movies.
Yeah.
I think it's on Netflix now, actually, as well. I'm not sure. I'm sure I saw it on there. Might be worth a second watch. But that film, even though it's a 2017 one, God, that was good.
Yeah, it was awesome.
But yeah, I guess I can't really mention it because it's kind of cheating, technically.
No, it's fine, man. Why did you like? I mean, I liked it because it was like
I just thought
it was proper fantasy horror sort of stuff.
That was the whole point. I loved it because it started off as camp people in the woods horror, and you kind of go, oh yeah, you know what to expect. It's going to be weirdos. It's going to be people. It's going to be hillbillies or something like that. And then you eventually start seeing supernatural stuff going, oh, it's a bit Blair Witch. You start immediately going to the nearest tangent. Then you see the people and then you're like, oh, it's Blair Witch meets like The Witch, where it's like a weird community in the woods. Then you start seeing the runes and go, oh shit. Then it gets weirder and weirder and weirder. And I love the little flashback sequences where he keeps going back to the shop where his friend, I think it was one of the guy's brothers, died in a robbery with like a crackhead and stuff with a machete. And it was just the way that every time you go back to that flashback, he's in the shop, but the building's half broken and it sort of fades into the woods, almost like Lego pieces where it's half built, and it just goes directly into the woods, and then it just starts going more batshit every time he goes back there.
It reminded me of like Train Spotting.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff, like the imagery of that, reminded me of that quite a lot, which I thought was cool.
I just thought it was such a well put together film. Where you think it's just like, I mean, we watched it because it reminded us of Dog Soldiers, you know, a group of people going off doing a stag do thing, and then it just completely escalated and got worse.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, really decent British horror that I guess will count because it was like end of last year, but came out in the States in 2018. Thanks for listening to the Not Watching Podcast, part of the Not Listening Podcast Network, where you can also find the Not Playing Podcast, where we talk about video games, and the Not Listening Podcast, where you can hear Adam and Co talk about all kinds of nonsensical nonsense. You can email us at notwatchingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet at or follow us on Twitter at notwatchingpod. You can find the show notes for all our shows at notlistening.co.uk, and if you like what you've heard here, please do leave us a review. Anyway, that's all for now. Until next time, see ya!
Bye.